The cockpit smells like oil and sweat. Oberleutnant Franz Stigler pulls his Bf 109 into a steep climb above the Rhine Valley. Below, the patchwork fields of western Germany blur into autumn brown. His gloved hand rests light on the stick. The Daimler-Benz engine hums smooth, confident. Through his gun sight, he watches the formation crawling across the sky. American bombers, B-17, fat, slow, bleeding smoke from their No. 3 engine, and around them, escort fighters, big ones. He's seen the intelligence photos. The new American fighter, P-47 Thunderbolt they call it. His squadron laughed when they first heard. 7 tons. Enormous radial engine jutting from the nose like a beer barrel. It looks like a flying bathtub. Nothing that heavy climbs, his Staffo-Kapitän had said. Nothing that fat turns. Stigler believed him. He banks left, lining up his approach from the sun. The P-47 circle lazily around the bombers, sluggish, predictable. He's fought Spitfires. He's fought P-38s. He knows what a real fighter looks like. This isn't it. He arms his guns. The nearest Thunderbolt grows in his windscreen. Still hasn't seen him. Stigler's finger curls around the trigger. Range, 400 meters, 350, 300. Then the P-47 rolls, not gently, not slow. It snaps inverted and dives so fast, Stigler's eyes can't track it. The massive fighter vanishes beneath him like a stone dropped in water. His stomach lurches. He pulls back hard on the stick, craning his neck, searching. Where? 8.50 caliber machine guns open fire behind him. The sound is a saw ripping through metal. They called it Die Fette Sau, the fat pig. When the first reconnaissance photos reached German fighter squadrons, the reaction was uniform, laughter. The Americans had done it again, built something with brute force and no finesse. The P-47 Thunderbolt weighed more than any single-engine fighter in the sky. Its radial engine made it look blunt, agricultural, a tractor with wings. Pilots gathered around the intelligence boards, shaking their heads. Look at the nose. It's a flying anvil. The Mi-109 was elegant, lean, purpose-built. The FW-190 was a masterpiece of German engineering. Compact, lethal, fast. Both could climb like rockets. Both could turn inside anything the Allies flew. The P-47 looked like a compromise designed by a committee. At forward airfields along the Channel coast, pilots prepared for the bomber streams the way hunters prepare for the season. Every morning the Americans came. B-17CS and B-24s, formations stacked in combat boxes protected by whatever fighters had the range to escort them. Usually P-38 Lightnings, sometimes Spitfires, for the first 100 miles. The Lightnings were dangerous. Twin engine, long range, fast in a dive, but they were vulnerable. Hit one engine, the plane became a glider. Spitfires were worse, nimble, quick to turn. British pilots knew what they were doing, but the Americans kept losing bombers. Deep raids into Germany, targeting factories, oil refineries, ball-bearing plants, the bombers went in alone, beyond a certain point. No F-fighters could reach them. That's when the killing started. German pilots developed a system, wait until the escorts turned back, then swarm. Frontal attacks against the bomber's weakest point, the nose. Come in fast, guns blazing, break away before the defensive fire got too thick. Circle around, do it again. Some days, entire formations went down, 30 bombers, 300 men. The Americans bled. And then, April 1943, intelligence reported something new. A massive single-engine fighter entering service. Republic P-47. Range, extended, using drop tanks. Armament, 8.50 caliber Brownings. Weight, 13,000 pounds fully loaded. 13,000 pounds, and Mi-109 weighed 6,000. Jagdgeschwader 2, based near Abbeville, held a briefing. The squadron leader stood at the front, pointer tapping the silhouette pinned to the board. This is what we'll see more of. Big, heavy. The Americans think mass equals superiority. A pilot in the third row. Can it even reach altitude? Barely. Operational ceiling around 40,000 feet, but it will be slow getting there. Turn rate? Worse than a Focke-Wulf. Far worse than ours. Laughter. Armament? 8 machine guns, 50 caliber, American standard, heavy punch but overrated. More laughter. The briefing ended. Pilots walked out into the pale French sunlight. Mechanics worked on fighters parked along the tree line. Somewhere south, anti-aircraft batteries practiced their firing drills. The war was routine now, predictable. No one worried about the fat pig. In the mess halls, jokes circulated. Someone said the P-47 was so heavy it needed a runway the length of the Autobahn. Another pilot claimed American engineers were trying to compensate for poor tactics with sheer weight. The laughter was genuine, comfortable. These men had fought since 1939. Poland, France, Britain, Russia. They'd seen every Allied fighter. They knew what worked and what didn't. The P-47 didn't look like it would work. Unteroffizier Klaus Mietusch is 22 years old. He's flown 74 combat missions, shot down 6 Allied planes, survived 3 emergency landings. He knows his aircraft, knows his limits, knows when to push and when to break away. Today, the sky is clear. His ROT 2-plane element patrols at 22,000 feet. Below, a formation of B-17 drones westward, heading home after hitting targets near Antwerp. He counts 12 bombers, maybe fewer. Some are already trailing smoke. Stragglers, easy prey. Hartmann, stay close, he radios. His wingman acknowledges. They bank into position, high, behind, sun at their backs. Textbook. Mietusch has done this dozens of times. The bomber's gunners are exhausted, low on ammunition, watching the coast for safety. He rolls into his dive. Speed builds fast. 300 kilometers per hour, 400, 500. The bomber grows in his gun sight, big, lumbering, helpless. He can see the dorsal turret swiveling, tracking him. He doesn't care. He's too fast. He'll fire, break left, be gone before they blink. Range. 600 meters, 500, 4. Something flashes in his peripheral vision. A shadow. Huge. Coming from above, Mietusch's instincts scream. He yanks the stick hard right, abandoning the attack. The bomber disappears. His world becomes G-force and tunnel vision. Blood drains from his head. He grunts, flexing his legs, keeping consciousness. Behind him, something roars past. A fighter. American. The fat one. It's diving, screaming down like a meteor, and it isn't slowing. Mietusch's Messerschmitt tops out at 700 kilometers per hour in a dive before things start vibrating. Before controls stiffen and the airframe shudders. The P-47 is moving faster. Much faster. It barrels past him, overshoots, keeps diving. Mietusch blinks. He's safe. The American misjudged. Flew too fast. Couldn't follow the turn. Rookie mistake. He levels out, breathing hard, scanning for his wingman. Hartmann, static. Hartmann, respond. Nothing. He cranes his neck, searching the sky. Below him, 3,000 feet down, something tumbles through the air. Pieces. Metal. A wing. Smoke trail corkscrewing towards the earth. The wreckage of a Mi-109, his wingman. And climbing back toward him, engine howling, wings level, the Thunderbolt returns. Mietusch doesn't think. He brakes hard left, throttle full, pulling into the tightest turn his aircraft can manage. 4 Gs, 5, the horizon spins, his vision greys at the edges. The 109 is nimble. Nothing outturns a 109. The P-47 stays with him. Impossible. He reverses, rolls right, dives, climbs, every trick he knows. The American follows, not gracefully. The Thunderbolt doesn't dance. It forces itself through the air, engine bellowing, using sheer power to muscle through maneuvers that should tear it apart. Mietusch's altimeter unwinds. 18,000 feet, 15, 12. He can't shake it. Tracer rounds snap past his canopy, bright, thick streams of 50 caliber. They sound like hammers on tin. One round punches through his left wing. Aluminum tears. Fuel mist sprays into the slipstream. He's going to die. He shoves the stick forward, diving vertical, praying speed will save him. The 109 screams. 8,000 feet. 6. 4. The Belgian countryside rushes up. Fields, roads, a church steeple. He pulls out at 1,500 feet, so low he can see cows scattering. His engine coughs. Temperature gauge redlines. The P-47 is gone. He doesn't celebrate. He just flies. West. Toward France. Toward base. Toward anywhere with a runway. He lands 20 minutes later, wheels slamming onto grass, engine belching black smoke. The propeller stops. Silence. Mietusch sits in the cockpit, hands shaking, staring at nothing. Ground crew runs toward him, shouting questions. He doesn't answer. Later, in the debriefing room, he tries to explain. The intelligence officer takes notes, nods, doesn't seem surprised. Others have reported similar encounters, the officer says. Mietusch looks up. How many? Enough. The room feels colder. The reports multiply. Pilots return from escort duty with wild stories. The P-47s dive faster than anything in the sky. They absorb punishment, cannons, machine guns, head-on collisions with debris, and keep flying. They don't dogfight like Spitfires, they don't dance, they brawl. Oberst Johannes Steinhoff, a veteran ace, writes in his logbook, "The American pilots are learning. The aircraft is a monster. We were wrong." June 12th. A Jagdgeschwader 26 formation intercepts bombers near Bremen. The P-47s are there, circling high. The German pilots ignore them. Too high, too slow to matter. They focus on the bombers. Then the Thunderbolts drop. They come down in near vertical dives, engines screaming, 8 guns firing simultaneously. The sound alone is terrifying. A sustained roar like tearing canvas. Each P-47 carries over 3,000 rounds. They don't shoot bursts. They hold the trigger. A Focke-Wulf 190 disintegrates mid-air. Wings blown off, fuselage shredded, pilot dead before he can bail. Another one, 09, tries to run. The P-47 chases it down, level flight, full throttle. The Messerschmitt is lighter, should be faster. The Thunderbolt runs it down in 3 minutes, closes the gap, fires, the 109 spirals smoking into the North Sea. The Germans break off, scatter, the bombers reach their target untouched. At Luftwaffe headquarters, the mood sours, intelligence officers pull data, combat loss reports, gun camera footage, pilot debriefings. The pattern is clear. The P-47 doesn't fight the way European fighters fight. It doesn't turn. It doesn't climb gradually, conserving energy. It uses altitude, speed, gravity. American pilots climb to 30,000 feet, higher than most German fighters patrol comfortably. They wait, watch. When targets appear below, they dive. Boom and zoom, energy tactics. German fighters excel in turning engagements. Tight circles, scissors, vertical spirals. The P-47 refuses to play that game. It dives, fires, climbs back up using momentum. If a German tries to follow the climb, he stalls out. The Thunderbolt keeps going, powered by a massive turbo-supercharged Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, producing 2,000 horsepower. And the 50 caliber, 8 of them, synchronized, 4 per wing, they shred aircraft. Pilots report seeing wings fold, tails snap off, engines explode. The 50s punch through armor, sever control cables, ignite fuel tanks. One pilot describes it like being hit with a sledgehammer, repeatedly. The Luftwaffe tries new approaches, attack from directly ahead, where closure rates are too fast for accurate shooting. Use altitude advantage, dive from above before the Americans can react. Focus on the bombers, ignore the escorts entirely. Nothing works consistently. The P-47s are everywhere now. More squadrons arrive weekly. The 56th Fighter Group, the 78th, the 353rd. They fly in formations of 16, 32, sometimes 48 aircraft, stacked in layers, high cover, medium cover, low cover. German pilots used to outnumber the escorts. Now they're outnumbered 3 to 1, sometimes 5 to 1. "We need new tactics," a Staffelkapitän says. "We need better pilots," another replies. "We need time." They don't have it. July. American bomber raids increase. Twice a week, 3 times, 4. The 8th Air Force is growing. More groups, more planes, more P-47s. The Thunderbolts range farther now, fitted with external drop tanks. They escort bombers deep into Germany, Schweinfurt, Regensburg, Stuttgart. Places that used to be safe. German pilots adapt. They attack from head-on, where the P-47's 8 guns can't track fast enough. They use altitude against them, diving from above before the Americans can climb. They hit and run, but the attrition favours the Allies. America builds 12 P-47s for every one Germany shoots down. German pilots are veterans, skilled, experienced, irreplaceable. When they die, their knowledge dies with them. The Americans cycle in fresh pilots every month, young, aggressive, trained to fly the Thunderbolt's strengths. A German pilot might shoot down 2 P-47s in a month. America replaces them in a week. The mathematics are brutal, unforgiving. At a forward base near Lille, a Staffel loses 4 pilots in 3 days. Their replacements arrive from training schools in Germany. 19 years old, barely 200 hours F, light time. They last an average of 11 days before being killed or captured. One young pilot, freshly assigned, asks a veteran how to fight the Thunderbolts. The veteran looks at him, doesn't smile. "You don't." August 17th, 1943. Schweinfurt, Regensburg. The largest daylight raid yet. 300 bombers, targets, ball-bearing factories deep in Bavaria. The formations cross into Germany at noon. P-47s escort them to the maximum range, just past the German border, then turn back, fuel exhausted. The bombers continue alone. German fighters swarm. Me-109s, Fw-190s, twin-engine Bf-110s with rocket tubes under the wings. They tear into the formations. Dozens of bombers fall. 60, 70. The sky fills with parachutes and burning wreckage. Pilots make multiple passes, expend all ammunition. Some ram bombers out of desperation. The bombers that survive hit their targets. Factories shattered. Production crippled for months. But the cost is staggering. When the P-47s pick up the survivors on the return leg, they count the bombers limping home. Less than half. Crews dead. Aircraft missing. Some pilots weep over the radio. The 8th Air Force calls it Black Thursday, but they don't stop. 3 days later they come back. Different targets, same tactics. The P-47s escort them farther this time. New drop tanks, more fuel. The German fighters engage, more die. The attrition continues. By September, some Luftwaffe squadrons are at half strength. Replacement aircraft arrive slowly. Replacement pilots arrive even slower. And the ones who do arrive don't last. By September, the joke is over. The P-47 has become the nightmare. More arrive every week. Entire fighter groups equipped with them now. The 56th, the 78th, the 353rd. They fly high cover, medium cover, low cover. They strafe airfields on the way home. Cannons blazing. Ripping through parked aircraft and hangars. German pilot losses spike. Experienced aces die. Replacements are younger, less trained, rushed through abbreviated programs because there's no time. They last weeks, sometimes days. Lieutenant Werner Schreur, 32 kills, is shot down over France, survives, returns to his squadron. 2 weeks later, a P-47 catches him during takeoff, wheels still retracting, no speed, no altitude. He crashes into the trees at the end of the runway. Hauptmann Emil Lang, 173 kills, tangles with 4 Thunderbolts near Gelsenkirchen. He shoots one down, the other 3 converge. Lang's Fw-190 explodes. Major Egon Meyer, 102 kills, develops head-on attack tactics specifically to counter the P-47. Works for months. March 1944, he leads a strike against B-17. The escorts are waiting. His 109 takes cannon fire. He dies in the cockpit. Oberfeldwebel Heinz Baer, 200 kills, survives the war. After it ends, he writes, "The P-47 was the turning point. We could fight Spitfires, we could fight Mustangs, but the Thunderbolt, it was a hammer, and we were nails." The tactical evolution is complete. American pilots master the energy fight. They don't dogfight unless forced. They maintain speed, altitude. When engaged, they dive away, using the P-47's superior dive speed to escape. Then they climb back, reset, attack again. German pilots call it der amerikanische Kreislauf, the American cycle. Dive, shoot, climb, repeat. It's methodical, brutal, effective. And the Thunderbolt's durability becomes legend. One returns to base with 3 feet of its tail missing. Another lands with over 200 bullet holes. A P-47 collides with a Messerschmitt at 400 miles per hour, shears off the 109's wing, and the Thunderbolt pilot flies home, his propeller bent, engine vibrating, but still running. Captain Robert Johnson takes cannon hits from an Fw-190. His canopy shatters. Cockpit fills with smoke. Instruments destroyed. He flies 200 miles back to England, lands, climbs out, counts 237 holes in his aircraft. The P-47 flies again 2 days later. Pilots start calling it the Jug, short for Juggernaut. Ground crews love it. Simple radial engine, easy to maintain, rugged airframe, battle damage that would destroy a Spitfire or a Lightning, barely slows a P-47. One crew chief says it plainly, "You can fix a Jug with a hammer and duct tape." He's not entirely joking. December 1943. The war has 6 months until D-Day. The Allies need air superiority. Total, absolute, no German fighters over the beaches, no reconnaissance, no attacks on the invasion fleet. The P-47 is part of that plan. Thunderbolt's groups begin offensive sweeps, hunting German fighters rather than escorting bombers. They roam across France and Western Germany looking for trouble. When they find it, they attack. Airfields get hit, trains strafed, convoys shredded. The Luftwaffe bleeds. A German pilot writes home, "We no longer control our own skies. The Americans fly where they want, when they want. We can do nothing but watch or die trying. The letter never arrives. He's killed the next day. By the time of the Normandy invasion, German fighter strength in France is broken. Squadrons exist on paper, not in reality. Pilots are green. Aircraft are scarce. Fuel is scarcer. The P-47s fly multiple sorties daily. Ground attack, close air support, interdiction. They destroy more targets on the ground than in the air. Tanks, trucks, locomotives, bridges. One pilot describes a mission. We hit a German convoy near Caen, 20 trucks. We made 4 passes. Nothing left but fire. The Thunderbolt becomes the Allies' premier fighter bomber. Bombs under the wings, rockets under the fuselage, 8 guns blazing. German forces call it Jabberschreck, fighter bomber terror. When they hear the engines, that distinctive roar of the R-2800, they scatter, hide, pray. Sometimes it works, often it doesn't. By war's end, the P-47 Thunderbolt accounts for nearly 4,000 aerial victories in the European theatre, more than any other Allied fighter. It flies over 546,000 combat sorties. It destroys 9,000 locomotives, 6,000 armoured vehicles, 68,000 trucks, countless bridges, fuel depots, supply dumps. It loses 3,752 aircraft. Combat and operational, but it changes the war. Not because it was elegant, not because it was nimble, because it was there, in numbers too large to counter. Flown by pilots trained to use its strengths and ignore its weaknesses. Built by a nation that could replace losses faster than the enemy could inflict them, the Republic Aviation factory in Farmingdale, New York, produced 15,663 P-47s. Peak production, 1 aircraft every 40 minutes. Around the clock, 7 days a week. Germany couldn't match that. Couldn't compete with it, couldn't survive it. The German pilots who survived, who lived to see the surrender, the trials, the rebuilding, they remembered the P-47 differently than they remembered other fighters. The Spitfire was an adversary, respected, feared. The Mustang was beautiful, dangerous. The P-47 was inevitability. A 7-ton fist falling from the sky, again and again, until there was nothing left to resist. Some pilots, in their later years, admitted a grudging respect. The Thunderbolt did what it was designed to do. It won. Not through grace or elegance, but through presence, power, persistence. Others never forgave it, saw it as a symbol of American industrial might crushing European skill, a victory of quantity over quality. Both were right. Franz Stigler survives the war, he emigrates to Canada, becomes an engineer, lives into his 90s. In his later years, he gives interviews, talks about the air war, the planes he flew, the men he fought, the men he lost. When they ask him about the P-47, he pauses. "We laughed at it," he says. "We thought it was too heavy, too slow, too American." He looks out the window, snow falling over Vancouver. Then it started killing us, and it didn't stop. Silence. The interviewer waits. Stigler doesn't elaborate, doesn't need to. He's said everything that matters. Outside, the snow continues falling, quiet, endless, covering everything.